And welcome once again to Colorado Conversations. I'm today's host, Chris Parente. And a reminder, if you're up early, you can catch me every day on CW2 Daybreak. I'm the morning anchor. I've been at Channel 2 for over 20 years. We have a great time in the morning. And it's a different kind of morning show. We have a looser vibe, and I think a more real vibe, which is why I think today's guest really strikes a chord with me, because ain't nobody keeps it more real than the divine Miss Kimberly Jonas. Thank you for coming on the show.
Happy to be here.
You live up the road in Boulder.
Yes.
You've been in Boulder almost 30 years.
Yes.
And we should tell folks that I've known you for probably 35 years.
Right.
We went to college together and met at 19.
That was so long ago.
Yeah, and yet you look the same and I look like a wizened raisin. I don't know how that worked, Kimberly. But what's cool to me is, very quickly, because the reason we're coming on the show today is to talk about what you do in Boulder as a healer, as an intuitive, mind, body, spirit, right?
Yes.
But that's not where you started, because you were actually quite a success in the corporate world. Some of the biggest greeting card companies in America, you were like in the corporate boardrooms making it happen. That's a far cry from like intuitive healer. So quickly, how'd you make the shift?
Well, coming out of college, we were in programs together where I was studying business and liberal arts, and I loved my job. I absolutely loved that world. It was artistic. It helped me to grow. I was making a lot of high-level decisions and managing huge budgets.
Nationally. This is a major greeting card company.
Yes, it was. It was eventually bought out by Hallmark. And the story is that one day I had started to feel the building pressure, and something happened, a story I don't need to get into now, but I remember running out of the building into the back fields and hyperventilating. I was so...
You were at a breaking point.
I was completely at a breaking point. And there were a lot of things that went into that, but mostly it was the pressure and the constant rising above.
Right.
And so I switched jobs and came out here, but I stayed in the industry for a short period. But during that time, I started practicing yoga and meditating.
Right.
And that was the beginning.
Started to open a new door. And of course, it's funny because Boulder is kind of known as a metaphysical place anyway.
Right.
So it was a place that was kind of, I think, good maybe to open your eyes to what else is out there.
Yeah.
So you made a switch from corporate America, from a major greeting card company, into doing your own thing.
Yes, I did.
Which, when I talk about an intuitive and a healer, that's sort of like, I wonder if people might envision like, you know, your burning sage and nam myoho renge kyo. What is it actually that you do? And is it in classrooms or is it one-on-one?
I've done both. For about 22 years, I was teaching large groups of people. And the idea there was to help people get beyond the constrictions of the body and remember that there's more available to us. I call that the spirit realm. Some people call it the universe, God, the God realms. But the idea being that we have so much information available to us to help us move with more ease in our body, have our hearts be open, and still function in the world. So I was teaching groups, helping them to move their bodies so that they could break up old patterns and access that material. And then when COVID hit, I decided to take a break. And now I'm focused solely on my private practice, which is working, as you know, one-on-one with people. And that involves Reiki, which is an energy work practice. It's evolved for me over 25 years. It's really my own work. And that is to help move energy blocks in the body. But also as an intuitive, the way I describe it is that I'm able to expand my senses to hear and feel and sense what's already present, but you might not be hearing.
Right.
And to be able to share that with you so that you might be able to change course or make a different decision or release illness, for example, in the body. And that to me is where the magic is that I'm actually working with the client based on what's already available, and they may just not be accessing.
What kinds of people do you work with typically, And what's the goal? Because I mean, I think obviously if you go to, let's say, a chiropractor, you know what the goal is. My back, I want it to stop hurting. If you go to an acupuncturist, maybe you know what the goal is. In these, I assume the sessions are in a room like maybe the same way an acupuncturist would have their room?
Yes.
What's the goal of these one-on-one intuitive sessions that you do?
Usually it starts with someone coming with an issue, what they might see as a problem. They have an illness, they're experiencing a great loss, maybe a job change, a divorce, a death, or they have had a diagnosis. And usually once we get into that material and start looking at that concretely, it starts to expand into other questions about, where do I want to go with my life? There's something that's feeling not aligned or that feels unsettled. So usually the start point is not exactly where we're going. It's
Right.
usually a pretty curving road.
And do you think in general, I would imagine, I mean, having come out here, Boulder's pretty open-minded and progressive, and so is Colorado. But is there some blowback for people who think that this is all just phooey? Because America in general tends to be pretty Western oriented. Like if I'm sick, I'm going to go to the doctor. If I am got a mental issue, I'm going to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. What kind of leap of faith does it take to maybe widen the tools that you're using and come to somebody like you?
Yeah, well, I would say a couple of things. First of all, I have had clients and students who come from that viewpoint where there's a little more of, like you say, maybe Western medicine, or their view of things is, I don't want to call it narrow, but there's a way of doing things. And the way I approach those people is not to say that's wrong, but to say let's include that, and what else? And what else? Now, I'm probably never going to convince a complete non-believer who doesn't have an open mind that there's something to be had here. But most people, even the ones who are a little skeptical or they don't know what I'm talking about, once they get to know me and they start seeing results and feeling differently in their body, in their mind, in their heart, they just start to understand that there's more available, like I said, beyond one singular path.
Right.
And I would also say, Chris, that, and again, we've talked about this a lot, that I'm all about blending the Western medicine in when it needs to be brought in. It's not about throwing that out the door and doing the woo, as you say. It's really about blending all of that and having somebody move toward their best life.
Right. And I think a lot of, I mean, I guess people might wonder, well, what's a session look like? I have come to you. I've had great benefit in my life from it. But it might be like, well, am I going to lay down on a table? Are we going to sit down and talk? Are you going to do sort of Reiki, hands-on, like very briefly, what might a session with you look like?
The general structure is that someone comes in, I will speak to them and ask them to tell me a little bit about their story, not too much, because I don't want it to turn into talk therapy. This is about really listening beyond the brain. So we'll talk for a little bit, and then I open channels in my system to be able to receive, like I said, those from the larger realms, to then speak to them about, well, maybe this, have you thought about that? And then we do get on a table, clothes on, comfortable clothes, and I do touch the body. Traditional Reiki is non-touch, but I've gotten to a point where I work also physically to get into the energy channels of the body, and I talk to my clients. I don't just do voodoo and magic and say, poof, you're better. I talk about what's happening. Do you feel this? So that they have agency in what's transpiring.
Right. And you've had clients report great success.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
It always, and I don't say that with arrogance, it always amazes me what people are capable of when they slow down. So I don't play music. It's very quiet in the room. Everything slows down so that they can hear what their true inner voice is saying.
Are you surprised to be talking to me about this? Because the Kimberly that I knew, age 19, Indiana University, Like, did you, like, wow, I'm seeing myself as a healer and an intuitive in realms that are not conventional. Does this surprise you that your life is here, or does it feel completely normal and natural?
I would say looking back, it feels completely normal and natural. In the moments when I started to develop these skills, when I started to, I'm a clairvoyant and clairaudient, so I started to have some experiences that I definitely did not equate with this is who I am. But I think it was always there. You know, my mother was an artist, and so I grew up in an environment where artistry and this kind of open imagination was very welcome. And I have a feeling that even unconsciously that fed who I am today.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is having been in Boulder almost 30 years and having worked, you know, a long time in the yoga community, and like there's a bunch of different practices that you have studied that I feel like kind of come together in what you've made uniquely your own.
Yes. Yeah, I studied in the fields of shamanism, as you say, yoga, different types of meditation. There are just so many worlds there. But also sitting with a lot of different teachers and elders who became really my mentors and, in a sense, my family, my tribe. And that's when I knew, oh, this is where I'm going to really learn who I am and also be able to help other people.
It's fantastic. And we'll talk a little bit later about how it works to get hooked up with you or just follow along. Even if you don't want to be a client or you don't feel like that's maybe, there's a way to follow along with your writings and your musings and your reflections on where we are in the world, which is cool too. Now, my reflection is we got to pay the bills, so I got to go to commercial break. All right?
Okay.
But we'll come right back and talk more with the divine Kimberly Jonas from right up the road in Boulder. Stick around. Welcome back to Colorado Conversations. I'm today's host, Chris Parente, and most days you'll find me on Channel 2 Daybreak, the morning anchor over on CW2. Kimberly Jonas with me. We both are Indiana University Hoosier grads. Hoosiers?
I can't top that.
She may not have the same Hoosier. Well, we've moved on. Been quite a few years since college. But what's interesting is we're talking about, you know, the paths, the course that. Did you think I would be a TV guy when I was in college?
Absolutely.
You did?
Oh, yes. All the things that you did in our classes, and you were such a showman.
That was kind of even back in the day.
It was.
I wouldn't have thought you'd be where you are. You surprised me in the best way. And we talked earlier about your practice in Boulder. But what I like about it is it's so many like quivers in your bow, because something else you do that I love is you are so familiar with like apothecaries and herbs and traditional medicines. Like when I mean traditional, I mean like Earth Mother medicines.
Yes.
And you make, you're wondering what this thing is in the middle of our desk. You come up with these essential oil blends.
Yes.
That I actually use. Not medicinally, but more in a meditative way, but they do have even some medicinal powers, right?
Yes.
Talk about what these are and how you got into doing it.
Well, I will tell you that my mother actually got me started in that. You may not know that.
I did not know that.
She was working with a brand that's very popular and well-known, Young Living essential oils, and they had a technique called the raindrop technique, which is known to help heal and shift scoliosis. So I started working with them in that regard just because I was interested.
Right.
But then pretty quickly I was already doing Reiki in my practice. I owned my own studio, and I started blending things intuitively. It just started happening. And
is this sort of like to evoke a state of being or to address a specific malady?
Both. For me, some people would come in, oh, my neck hurts. Okay, I know exactly what to put there because it needs to soften and the muscles need to relax. But at the same time, if someone takes in that aroma, I know it's going to change their brain patterns and they're going to settle down, so the muscles will relax for that reason too. But it just became this natural thing where I started training myself, I started reading, taking trainings, learning about the science. I wanted to have that basis. But then once I had the science base, I started going into the intuitive realms of listening to the plants, what wanted to come together, how could that help somebody, like you say, from a meditative standpoint, but with the bonus of medicinal assistance as well.
Well, and again, I want to make it clear, I'm not getting paid, I'm not on the take, I have no financial stake in anything you do I?
He is on
None.
the take.
I know.
He is on the take.
Well, I am on the spiritual take because I did purchase your oils. As I've made it clear, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. I've shared that. And you right away said, I've got an oil that I use with my breast cancer patients that actually can have a medical benefit, and also you can do it in a meditative way. And I kind of did my own, this sounds like, yes, the ingredients in there are known to help alleviate at least some of the symptoms. Same thing, you made a medicinal tea.
Yes.
And I not that I don't trust her. I Googled, okay, what are and the ingredients in that tea? Yep, all known to help with the wall of the bladder. So these things are really amazing.
Thank
On
you.
top of that, I like to use them as a meditation, whether it's on your forehead or on your palms, or if I'm applying it over my stomach where my bladder is,
Yep.
as a type of a prayer. That's how they can be used, right?
Yes, it's really all of those things. And I'm so glad that you actually did do your little checking it out, because again, for anybody who might be skeptical and feeling like this might be out of their realm of believability, there are lots of scientific studies about many plant extracts, specifically essential oils, related to cancer, related to skin issues, related to muscles, related to wound healing. But then there's also a lot of proof about aromatherapy and how it moves into the sinus cavity and goes into the brain structure and changes how the brain actually fires. So all of that is out there, but I love to add the layer of, as you say, prayer and meditation so that someone can personalize it for themselves. Bladder cancer, okay, I'm working with visualizing my bladder healed. That is very particular to a single person.
Right.
And I want them to be able to do that.
It's awesome. We're almost out of time. So when we come back, I want to tell folks how they can learn more and follow you. This is not a sales pitch, but the social media and the different accounts where if you are interested in learning more about, there might be more out there. Especially, this hits to me because, again, I've got a cancer fight. And I had to ask myself, is there more than one approach? Or should I just go to my Western oncologist and be done with it? If that's you, stick around. When we come back, we'll tell you how you can hook up with Kimberly here on Colorado Conversations. We're back on Colorado Conversations, and thank you for spending this time with me. You know, people I think are surprised because I can be a goof sometimes. I like to laugh. I like to have a good time. And of course, I'm a TV news anchor, so people are really shocked, I think, to know that I have a spiritual side. I don't really share that often, but that's probably the deepest foundation of who I am, which is why Kimberly and I think, have stayed friends for all these years. Now, the oils, what I like to is, you have like, with the winter solstice or the summer solstice, these oils come out that can kind of evoke the season. So even if you don't have any sense of like, woohoo, they're cool. Just to kind of celebrate olfactory the season.
Yes.
You also do specific blends for people, et cetera, et cetera. What is does the line have a name?
Well, these are called my line is called Body Mantra.
Body Mantra.
Yes, so it's about working with the body and mantras, which is a realm in the meditation worlds. And
the best way to, if somebody wants to learn more about not just these oils, which by the way, this is the summer one, the white Tara?
Yes.
I haven't smelled it yet, may I?
Yes, you'll have to
Oh, is it still, it's not even...
Oh, no, here.
I don't want to cause trouble.
Here you go.
Oh, it's that easy. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, God, why isn't there smell-o-vision? God, it's so good.
Can you smell it?
So, how can folks, I think, most easily learn more? Whether it's these oils, what you do with clients, or your writings. You're an avid poet and writer, and I love following you on Substack. Where's the place people can go? Is there one spot or multiple? It's your chance to lay it out there.
The easiest place to find me is at my central website, which is KimberlyJonas.com. From there are links. You can go find my oils, you can find my Substack from there, and also my Instagram, which is where I spend most of my social media time, which is, my handle is at Kimberly C. Jonas.
Gotcha. So if you go on the Google machine, you type in Kimberly Jonas.
Yes.
That's going to pop up.
No relation to the Jonas Brothers, though, unfortunately.
No? Not even Joe?
Well, maybe. If I keep digging, I might find it.
Ancestry. Come on, Ancestry.com.
Help me.
Now, you don't need these guys. You got your own magic going on. KimberlyJonas.com.
Yes.
Google it. And we've got just a minute left. I want to ask you, in the little time, and it's hard to summarize, what's your hope with all this? Because I guess you're trying to be a billionaire with it. What's your ultimate hope with what you're doing with your practice and your oils and everything else?
I really want people to be able to live with ease and self-assurance in this world, especially right now. There is so much turmoil, so much uncertainty, and I really want to help people remember what they're capable of, and that there are resources for them to stay the course and stay steady, even in the midst of all of these storms.
You want to be a helper.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's
well,
it.
You've done a great job, at least with
Thank
me.
you. Thank
I don't
you.
know if I'd be sitting here if it weren't for the work you've done with me, because you know, a cancer diagnosis is hardcore.
Yeah.
It's hardcore. Hopefully you don't have to deal with anything that profound, but anything in your life, getting better connected. I hope you'll look up Kimberly and decide for yourself. KimberlyJonas.com. And now my hands just smell divine. Don't judge me if I'm going around sniffing my palms the rest of the day. Thanks, Kimberly.
Thank you.
That's it for me, Chris Parente. I hope you'll see you tomorrow morning on CW2 Daybreak and every weekday from 4:30 to 9. And again, let's keep this conversation going. Thanks, Kimberly.